the Lagos State Judicial Panel of Inquiry on Restriction for Victims of SARS-related Abuses and Other Matters in a unique, unanimous decision of the panel, comprising of Honorable Justice Doris Okuobi, retired, the chairperson, Mr. Ebun Adegurua, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, member DIG Taiwo Lakanu, Ms. Patience Patrick Udo, Mr. Segun Awosanya, Mrs. Oluwatoyin Odusanya, Mr. Lucas Koyejo, Mr. Majekudu, Mr. Tumitope Oluwaseun. These are the members. Delivers the report of investigation into the incident of 28th October 2020. We salute their industry and sense of courage. After the said report had gone public, there has been cacophony of opinions ranging from the response of the Nigerian Military High Command through the Chief of Defense Staff, the pronouncements of the Lagos State government, threats by its counsel on record before the panel to which Abiodun Owonekoko SAN and Oluka Odeanitan SAN, their apologies in the public space, and the speech of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, General Muhammad Buhari. We will proceed to respond to all these perspectives while also submitting our much-awaited position. Yesterday night, may I say at this juncture that yesterday's night, enemies of the NSAS movement and protest launched a murderous attack on one of the leaders of the movement, Kamiyosi Chukwu Ibe. The attackers were not criminals, came to rob her of personal effect, neither were they rapists. The criminals came with identity and with purpose. As they were macheting and cutting her, the three assailants said, "We know you. Since you NSAS people have been warned to stop and you didn't, when you die, go and continue in heaven." They inflicted serious material costs on her and left her for dead. The council is still alive is only by the grace of God. We hold the agents of the government, particularly Lagos State government, responsible for this heinous attack. The intention is clear and it's a prophecy of what's to come. Lagos State, federal government earnestly desire to silence the NSAS and reverse the position of the Lagos State Panel of Inquiry into the SARS abuses and other related matters, which indicted the Lagos State and federal government and held that indeed a massacre took place at the Lekki toll gate on 20th October 2020. We consider it a landmark report as it has finally established and confirmed the positions and facts enunciated by the New Nigerian Network from the beginning of this struggle. It should be recalled that the New Nigerian Network, through one of its affiliates, the Radical Agenda Movement in the Nigerian Bar Association, Ramimba, maintained legal representation for a certain number of NSAS protesters at the Lekki toll gate, with a legal team composed of additional Ogunlana, my humble self, the convener of the New Nigerian Network and chairman of the Radical Agenda Movement in the Nigerian Bar Association, Ramimba as lead counsel, and now Yade Miliyu, secretary of the Radical Agenda Movement, that's Ramimba, as well as other lawyers in the legal team, like Mr. Latif Abdulsalam and Victor Ojola. Our block of NSAS protesters, led by Dabira Ayuku, and the block of victims of Lekki shooting, led by Sarah Ibrahim, represented by Mr. Adeyinka Olumide Fusika, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, all together making the NSAS total block before the panel made eloquent eyewitness testimonies as well as victims' accounts, which debunked the wall of lies constructed by apologists of the state after the horrendous events of the night of 20th October 2020 at the Lekki toll gate. We align with the findings of the panel, to which, one, that the NSAS protests at the Lekki toll gate from 8th to 20th October 2020 were largely peaceful. Two, that the gathering at the Lekki toll gate was not that of hoodlums and cultists. They were vigilant against petty thieves and miscreants who apprehended and handed them over to the police. They had private security men, bodyguards. They also had ambulances to attend to health issues. They had welfare officers who took care of feeding the protesters, and they had an effective sanitation team that cleared the protest ground daily through consistent sweeping with zero tolerance for dangerous items and weapons such as stones, sticks, guns, machetes, etc. They also had an effective crowd control mechanism. Three, that the mayhem and violence recorded in other parts of Lagos State did not happen at the Lekki toll gate, so there was no need for any apprehension on the part of the government or the security agencies to seek to dispel that peaceful assembly with soldiers bearing lethal weapons. That 4. That the issue of whether or not the army kept to any particular rules of engagement is immaterial, since the invitation of the army to Lagos State and the deployment of the army to Lekki toll gate in the first place was totally unwarranted. The army should on no account be deployed against unarmed civilians, how much less youths who are only demanding for respect for their fundamental rights. 5. That the Nigerian army was at the Lekki toll gate. Troops were deployed from the 65 Battalion acting under 81 Division Garrison, forming a mobile team to patrol up to Epe, Ibeji, Lekki, Sangotedo, Badore, and other areas along the Lekki-Epe axis on the 20th of October 2020, as asserted in the testimony of Brigadier General Taiwo. That the Nigerian Army, number 6, that the Nigerian Army arrived at Lekki toll gate at about 6:40 p.m. on 20th October 2020. Upon the review of the incident, Sentinel Forensic Limited, in their report, corroborated this, as the report identified 7 military vehicles to be present at the scene, specifically at 6:51:14 hours. 7. That is without doubt that the military did not just use blank ammunition at Lekki toll gate. The eyewitnesses' accounts show very clearly that live ammunition was used by the military, who were initially the only persons who carried arms to the protest ground on the day of the incident. The medical evidence on the nature of the injury sustained by the protesters and cases of death were results of the deployment of live ammunition, as confirmed by the forensic experts, that is Sentinel Forensic Limited and Oxygen Consulting UK Limited. Meanwhile, Oxygen Consulting UK Limited was the expert provided before the panel by Lagos State government itself. That the testimony of the Maroko Divisional Police Officer, one Chief Superintendent Ganiyu Raji, that they were in lockdown at their station based on the statewide directive of CP Hakeem Odumosu, is therefore incongruous with the number of arms signed out and the obvious deployment of his officers to various places, including Lekki. The panel further finds that the arms movement diary shows that about 50 policemen under the Maroko Division were out in the streets, including Lekki and its environs, on various beats with rifles and abundant ammunition on 20th October 2020. Gentlemen, for you to appreciate this gentleman, this officer, Ganiyu Raji, who was indicted, actually told the panel that on that day, 20th and 21st, none of the policemen of Maroko Police Division station moved out, that they were there permanently in their station to protect it against vandalization, only for the panel to say, see, look at what your arms and diary, what it shows. 50, that the atrocious maiming and killing of unarmed, helpless, and unresisting protesters while sitting on the floor and waving their Nigerian flags, singing the national anthem that took place at the Lekki toll gate on the 20th October 2020 was a massacre. That the NSAS protesters at the Lekki toll gate were defenseless members of the civil populace, youth and young adults. That both the Lagos State government and indeed the federal government were well aware of their status, objectives, and the nature of their protest. That the presence of protesters at the Lekki toll gate did not threaten the territorial integrity of Nigeria and could not be considered as a civil insurrection to warrant the intervention of the Nigerian army. This is very important. We also deem it necessary to emphasize that the conclusions of the NSAS panel were evidence-based and copiously substantiated by the abundant testimonies of the summoned witnesses who were cross-examined under oath. The report does not just express the imagination of the panel members, it quotes extensively the testimonies of doctors who treated shot victims, who sent ambulances to the Lekki toll gate on the night of 20 October 2020 to pick victims of the violence, but were turned back by the army. Narrated grueling tales of mindless violence by the army and the police operatives that night, of the fact that the government could not bring anybody from the scene of the incident to testify, of the fact that government witnesses' testimony were riddled with contradictions. For instance, General Taiwo, that's the only military man who dared to show face. All the others ran away. In the light of the panel report, the crucial question to ask, and which people have been asking, can Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the governor of Lagos State, be absolved of any portion of blame in the events that led to the Lekki massacre and its aftermath? We have the candid view that while it may be argued that as governor of the state, Sanwo-Olu does not have maximum control over military personnel up to the extent of the capacity of the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. The overwhelming evidence, however, presented before the panel and the findings of the panel are shown that as the chairman of Lagos State Security Council, he influenced, that's the word, he influenced the processes that led to the dispatch of the soldiers to the Lekki toll gate to fire live bullets at unarmed and innocent protesters at the Lekki toll gate. We hold that he stands indicted and he should resign immediately.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. We shall always fight for our own victory. There is victory for all. Victory. There is victory for all. In the struggle for Nigeria, there is victory for all. Forward ever, backward never. In the struggle for Nigeria, there is victory.
Aluta!
Continua!
Aluta!
Continua!
Aluta!
Continua!
Victoria!
Asata!
Sọ̀rọ̀ sókè!
Wèrè!